Hello friends! So let's talk about our crumpled paper still life project. So this was an example I started last year. I printed out my reference photo in black and white and then started to draw in my dark areas, and I never finished it, but I'm going to finish it alongside you guys this year, okay? So that's kind of what it's going to look like. Yours will be a little bit smaller than that. So the first thing we need to do is get a sheet of paper. Okay, and this can be any kind of paper you have at home. It could be plain white printer paper. Okay, keep it simple. It could be a piece of lined notebook paper. I would recommend using white paper, but all I had in my attic were legal pads, so here's yellow, but the little lines can add an interesting dimension to your piece as well. Or you can also rip out a page from your sketchbook, and the little funky ends might also add some interest to your piece. So figure out which piece you want to use, okay? Then you have the option to use a marker or a pen and write something or draw something simple line drawing on that paper. So maybe you want to just draw some sort of a simple symbol like that. Maybe you want to write a word. I'm sure you guys could come up with something more clever than that. All right, it's up to you how you want that to look. Then you're gonna crumple it up, okay? Now, this piece could be really interesting. See how that marker line shows through and it changes direction. We have no idea what was originally drawn on the paper now because it's totally changed how it looks because of the way the paper is wrinkled up. So you might want to try this a few times, figure out what works the best for you to get the best composition, you know, and you can zhuzh it however you need to make an interesting crumple of paper, okay? So it can be super crumpled, maybe uncrumple it a little bit. Okay, it's up to you how far you take that. So now what you need to do is set up a light source. Okay, so how do we do that? One way is class meets the same time every day. So set it up by a window that you know where the sun is coming in at sort of an exaggerated angle. Another thing is, this is just a light bulb, but get a lamp, your desk lamp, and shine it on from sort of an exaggerated angle. I have some weird lights in my studio right now, and you can see that it creates some interesting things with the shadow. So that's what we want to think about, is what is happening with the actual crumple of paper as well as the shadow being cast, okay? Then you want to place your object on a simple surface, okay? One thing you can use is a piece of the newsprint that you guys have in your folders. You can see that it's a grayish color, right? So this adds a little bit of contrast between the white paper and that grayish background. So when you take a photo, photo of this, you'll see a little bit more contrast. You can just use, you know, your table, depending on what color it is, but it's kind of hard to see the shadows here because this is kind of dark. You can also just use plain white paper. You could also take your folder, the manila folder. You could even, like, if you take everything out of it, right? And then you could prop this up. Let's say you have a corner in your room and prop that up. So now you have a background, okay, and also a bottom. So then when I set my paper up, I can take the photo from my camera over here, and then I have a simple background as well. So depending on how you're taking it, if you're taking it from straight down or from a photograph from the side or whatever, you can use your folder as a backdrop for that, okay? Or anything simple that you have in your room or home available to you, okay? So let me get all this stuff out of the way. So you would want to set this up, again, light source, and take a couple different photographs of this. Maybe you need to take the photograph from here. Okay, maybe you want to take it from right above. Maybe you need to rotate this a couple different times to get the most interesting thing happening. Actually, I really like this from here because I have this really long exaggerated shadow and this really nice contrast between the object and the shadow it's casting. So these are things that you guys need to think about. Also, as you're photographing, think about composition. You can set your cameras up to have the rule of thirds on them, right? The little grid line on your camera, on your view screen. How does that work for your composition? You know, how much negative space do you have around the object? We can also crop on the computer before we print out, so don't stress too much about that. You don't want to get too close, so you don't want to be too far away, but you want to make sure that the shadows create an interesting composition and you're taking it from an interesting viewpoint. Okay, so happy crumpling and photographing, and I will see you in the next step.